Hello everyone, welcome to the Gurucool Collective. I'm starting a new web series in collaboration with researchers in various domains, tech enthusiasts, entrepreneurs and students. We'll be having discussions, mini workshops and much more using this platform. This project tries to promote learning through human interaction. With AI taking over our lives, it's easy to want to fully depend on it for our learning purposes, but here at the Gurucool Collective, we try to keep the Guru Chela Parampara, the teacher-student tradition alive. So hit that subscribe button and welcome to the first episode where I sat down with Stefan Lattner, who is a lead researcher at the Sony Computer Science Lab in Paris, where he and his team are doing great things with AI in music. Let's dive straight into the discussion. Hello, Stefan. First of all, it's a pleasure to be speaking with you. I'd love to jump right in with a question to kick things off. You've been deeply involved in AI and music. Was there a particular moment that made you realize that you want to pursue this field? I'd also love to hear about a bit of your own musical journey. Did you start out as a musician yourself? Do you play any instruments? What was that initial spark that got you into this intersection of AI and music?
I was always very much into music. I liked to play different instruments, piano, violin. I used to play in a band. I was interested also in music production myself. I did a bachelor in media technology, and along that line we also had software development and programming, and this was always also a strong interest of mine.
Yep.
And then at one point I realized, because AI was also, at the time, it was not yet such a big and successful topic, but it always interested me as well. And then I realized, there is something that's called algorithmic music. At the time, it was called algorithmic music, at least in the German areas, where I then realized, okay, this could be a good connection between my interest in music and my interest in programming and especially AI. So I did my bachelor thesis on this topic in Linz, so actually close to where I did my study for media technology. There is this institute of Gerhard Wittmer, and this basically for me was like, wow, I really want to do this. I heard Gerhard talk in radio, in Austrian radio, talking about beat tracking. Wow, cool. Is exactly what I would like to do. In this case, not necessarily so much into generative AI yet, but very generally music information retrieval.
Yeah.
And then I went there, and from there, then I got the opportunity to pursue a PhD in this institute.
Yeah.
And here I am.
That's extremely nice to know that you started with a music background and then you merged your other passion, which was programming, into all this. And yeah, because that is actually my journey as well. Anyways, I'd like to proceed to the next question. AI generated music often seems like magic to those unfamiliar with the technology, but behind the scenes, it's all about models, data, algorithms, and mathematics. So, could you
Yeah.
break it down for us in simple terms? How does AI actually learn to create music? In very simple terms.
Yeah, I mean, it basically it tries to simulate the data we show it during training. The idea is always, if you have a generative model, that the model tries to learn what we call the data distribution.
Yeah.
Which means concepts, structures that are in the data, correlations that are in the data, should be learned, so that if we generate again, such correlations should appear again.
Yeah.
This leads to basically structures that have to be reproduced to some degree. At least in the higher level, like tonality, melodic contours, and such properties of music can be learned from a lot of data, and that's the idea of generative AI, that it then is also able to create data according to the training distribution.
Yeah.
Also, of course, implies that there are limits to what it can do at inference time.
Yeah.
because it only knows positive examples, so it only knows what it can do. It doesn't know what it is not allowed to do. Basically, it just assumes that everything it didn't see is actually
Something that
um,
it cannot do. If it hasn't
yeah,
seen it, then it cannot do it.
yeah, exactly. And then, of course, if you show it a lot of data, it does something that we call generalizing.
Mm.
It can generalize to some degree, meaning it can create interpolations in the data space where
Yep.
it can create a mix between different data points that can then, because it's a very high dimensional space in what we operate, can already seem like a very creative and a very
Yep.
novel output, but it still
Mm.
has to adhere to the rules that were in the data and that it has
Yep.
detected, looking at a lot of training data.
Yeah. So, yeah, this actually connects to my next question, which you've already answered it a bit. You said that what it has not seen, it probably cannot generate. But yeah, I mean, one of the biggest debates around AI in music is whether it can be creative, like whether it can generate something novel out of itself, or is it just cleverly remixing patterns from its training data? I know that you've already answered it, but will there be a day in AI where like it will someday
Yeah.
compose truly original music or even give rise to an entirely new genre? Do you think that's a possibility?
Yeah. So first, there could be another question like, do humans generate like really new music at all
Mm. Yeah, yeah.
at any point in time? And also, do we want like whatever really new music is to be generated if this new music is too different to everything that our current culture has
Yeah. Will
already.
we even accept it as music then?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what it comes down to what is music and um, what basically what is necessary um, for music to adhere, what properties need to be in music in order for a human brain to be able to enjoy it.
Mm.
And there are different works on that, and we have already some glimpse on it
Mm.
in terms of um, how novel music should be in order to still be enjoyable. So it
Mm.
should not too just more of the same, but
Yeah,
it
yeah.
should also not be so different to everything we heard already that we cannot enjoy it anymore. There is a specific sweet spot.
Okay.
So to some degree, exploring the boundaries of our training data to some degree can be done by a model, and this would also be within this sweet spot probably.
Mm.
Um, but they're using our current approach to really try to, for example, for large language models to do next token prediction and just try to fit the model to a specific distribution might not be enough for
Mm.
models that we can push those models to actually create very different and new genres.
Yeah.
For this, it could be that we have more global critic models. Let's say maybe we have to introduce some form of reinforcement learning
Mm.
where we let the model adhere to more global rules rather
Yeah.
than having it focus too much on the specific distribution in detail. Um, I actually I'm convinced if as long as a stream of musical events to some degree um, um, has sufficient self-similarity, and if I listen to it often enough, I
Yeah.
can learn whatever I'm given,
Yeah.
and as soon as I've learned it and I recognize it again, it becomes musical. But here is really the question, yeah, how successful should this music be, and how many people actually should like it at first listen?
Yeah.
And for this, it shouldn't be too far out anyway.
Okay.
But having said that, I think one can push the limits of what such models can generate by doing some smart forms of recombination of, let's say, control signals. I mean, you can always control such models with a bit more detailed controls.
Yeah.
And if you would somehow force the model, or you tell the model that it should do any kind of genre, let's say death metal, but at the same time you would impose a reggae rhythm on it in this multidimensional space to basically satisfy both constraints.
Yeah.
And in that case, it has to be creative to find a good.
Exactly. Exactly. And in doing so and in merging those two genres, like it could create something that is liked by most humans and
Yeah.
also create a novel genre in that process. Yeah. Yeah, that's very insightful. And regarding usage of AI in music, I also recently experimented a song which a lot of people loved, but also a lot of people totally opposed. They said that if I keep using these AI tools, then maybe it's going to hurt me as an artist. And what do you think about this? Do you think AI is a threat to human creativity, or is this fear just a kind of an exaggeration by people? And how can we help people see AI as a tool that enhances an artist rather than to replace him or her?
Yeah, like in the end, everything should be allowed that is fun, and if you as a musician, you have fun using this model and rap about on top of it,
Yeah.
and someone sees value in your output, it should be fine and allowed.
Yeah.
And artists are not good in every part of music production.
Yeah.
For some things, artists may want to give more control to the AI.
Yeah.
And for other parts of their song, they want to take more control themselves. AI can just assist in those areas where people don't have so much fun making music. So I don't know if it would hurt your reputation, not if the overall song, if you have some originality,
Yeah,
let's say
exactly.
you're writing nice lyrics yourself,
Mhm.
why should you not take an AI generated output? The question is rather than how are these models trained that you use. I mean, if you use Udio or Suno, I'm not a big fan of their strategy. If it's a threat to human creativity, well, no, I don't. I think people want to be creative. They will use whatever's out there as tools to actually realize their creative
Exactly.
ideas. Yeah,
Yep.
and if it's too autonomous, if a model is too autonomous for a specific musician, they won't use it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And that brings me to the next question, which is about this autonomous, the models being too autonomous right now, because right now all you do is give it a prompt and then
Mm.
automatically the output is given. And the person who tried to generate the music doesn't really have those knobs and sliders to really make tweaks in between. But do you think that these AI generators will soon have these more fine tuning like capacities?
Mhm. Yeah, to the degree as musicians want it, and I think there are all levels of requirements depending on the specific musicians. I think Suno and Udio are not actually, and these very prompt-based approaches are not necessarily tailored for musicians anyway.
Yeah.
It's more tailored for those that need the music for background for the YouTube song.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's more for the end user.
Mm.
Musicians, they definitely, most of them want more control,
Yeah.
and that's actually what we're working on anyway in
Mhm.
CSL. I mean, we have this stem generator now, Diff-A-Riff, where you can create one instrument at a time, which
Ah,
allows you ready for much more control. In that regard, I think the goal should be to have a model that with basically, I don't know how to call it, a floating controllability, that whenever I'm not feeling very inspired, but I still need some material to continue my project, I can give more autonomy to the AI. But if
yeah.
I know exactly what I would like
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
result, I would actually like controls that can give me control up to the very detail of
Yeah.
every single note that is played. So there are lots of ways to deal with this,
Mm.
and definitely only having one prompt is definitely not the way
Yeah,
to go.
that is not the way to go. So yeah, okay, then I would like to move on to the next question. So one of the biggest challenges with AI generated music is figuring out who owns the rights. Like I released a song recently. I like to believe that I own it, but then I generated it using Suno. And
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, at this point, who owns it? Is it the developer who made this model? Is it the user who prompted it, or no one owns it? What is your say on this?
Yeah, I mean, there are different questions. Some might be more philosophical, ethical. Some are is a legal perspective on the topic, and some are very practical. I mean, you can claim ownership of output that you produced, and this basically gets in a database, and YouTube checks towards this database of whoever uploads stuff. So you can even download loops apparently from Splice, claim ownership, and then anyone that uses those loops get rejected on YouTube. So there are practical problems in that regard. There is a legal framework in the US, for example. It cannot be regarded copyrightable, or material is not copyrightable if it hasn't been produced by a human.
Mm,
While this is, I think, different in the UK, if I'm not mistaken.
okay.
The problem is what happens if you have kind of a Swiss cheese of self created and
Yeah.
automatic AI generated stuff, especially for music, where
Yeah.
things are superimposed on top of each other. What is now copyrightable? So I'm sure that the copyright law will have to be adapted to catch up with actually the current realities and also those that we will face in the future. So there will probably be a lot of adaptations necessary in copyright law. And at the same time, the question is, okay, do I feel that my output is basically I'm the owner of my output in total? How much of
Work,
what
how much of work did I add on to the generated song? Like what are the things? Yeah, and that would also determine much of it. Okay, so for the last question, imagine it's the year 2040. It's a bit of a sci-fi scenario. What does
Mhm.
the music industry look like with AI deeply integrated into it? Are human musicians still the main creators, or has AI taken the lead? What do you think the future would look like?
Hmm. Yeah, that's the most difficult question about so much into the future. I mean, we see that in the Asian in the Asian regions there are already purely digital artists. Even they existed before AI, generative AI. So
Mm,
apparently there is some acceptance of people. On the other hand, a lot of success of artists depend on the stories that
mm,
come with the life stories of the artists and so on. But also there is, I think, an inherent appreciation of people
yeah,
towards human ingenuity
yeah,
and human
exactly.
creativity and so on. So I think whatever comes up now, it will only be complementary to whatever we have already. So there will be probably purely digital artists. I'm not sure how successful they would be compared to current artists. Live staging will be probably
Yeah.
even more important in the future than it is already now,
Mm,
which is already more important than it used to be. So that artists actually earn their money with live
yeah.
events. Um, there will be parts of music of the music, let's say, of the music business ecosystem where AI would maybe take over to almost 100%. I mean,
Mm,
when it comes more to functional music,
yeah. Yeah.
music background music for YouTube videos is already pretty
Yeah.
dominated meanwhile, but also the dynamically generated music wherever you need a lot of music, for example, in games.
Yeah.
Games are scaling up. They become bigger, and the play becomes longer.
Yeah.
So for there, creating variations of human composed music, or dynamically adapting the music to the gameplay,
Yeah. Yeah.
will be pretty dominant, probably by AI as well, occupied by AI. So I think, yeah, it will have its place, but it will I don't think it will replace everything we know right now. That's
Yeah.
definitely not.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
definitely very reassuring to know that you have this perspective as well, since you know way much more because you're so deeply embedded into like AI music and the future of where it's going to be headed to. And yeah, it was
Yeah,
a
and
very yeah,
let me say this, maybe as a last statement, but I think, I mean, as long as people like to make music, and actually the process of music
yeah,
making is really enjoyable, and a lot of people like to do that. Um, and as long as this holds true, and I think this won't change, because yeah, why would it?
yeah.
Um, People will continue making music themselves, and there will be people appreciating their output.
Yeah, I think that's one good thing about humans. We don't just appreciate the outcome, but we also enjoy the process. And I
Yeah.
think that is what is gonna keep music alive. And I think yeah, that specific thing about like humans enjoying what humans do, just the experience of it will keep music alive. And also with anything related to art, I think yeah, our nature, our intrinsic nature will keep those arts and pursuits alive. So it's truly a beautiful thing, and AI is definitely going to assist us along the way. And yeah, it was very insightful talking to you. I'm very thankful for the time that you have given me. And yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure for me as well. Thank you very much.